When a police officer pulls you over, what you say and do in those few moments can really have a big impact on what kind of charges you may face and what type of legal issues you may encounter in court. When you see a police car's lights or hear the siren, try not to panic. Acknowledge that you see the officer by putting on your signal or hazards and safely making your way to the side of the road. The key to your interaction with the officer is to show the officer that you are going to follow their lead and that you will work with them throughout the traffic stop. Remember, the more comfortable and safe the officer feels, the better chance you have of possibly leaving the stop with just a warning. After you safely move your car over to the side of the road, it is important that you bring your vehicle to a complete stop. Then, roll down your window and turn off your engine. Keep your hands on the steering wheel, and if it's nighttime, turn on your car's interior lights. These simple steps will relay the message that you have nothing to hide, nor are you a threat to the officer. Keep your seatbelt on and remain in the car unless told otherwise. You should generally let the officer do the talking and respond only when appropriate. Avoid any rude behavior and try to remain polite. The side of the road is not the time or the place to argue your case. Police officers know why they pulled you over, however, they often ask you open-ended questions for the purpose of initiating conversation or getting you to admit that you were doing something wrong. The most common question asked by an officer is, "Do you know why I pulled you over?" The best way to respond is by politely saying something to the effect of, "No, officer, can you tell me why you pulled me over?" The officer may continue to engage you by being a little bit more direct, with statements like, "I caught you going 75 in a 50, or "I witnessed you talking on the phone." Don't fall for the bait. If you're pulled over for speeding, making statements like, "I was going with the flow of traffic," or "I'm not sure what the speed limit was," does not help your case. Likewise, if you're pulled over for talking or holding an electronic device, telling the officer "I was holding my phone and not talking on it," or "I was using my GPS," is just as harmful because it can be used against you in court. You do have a right to remain silent to any charges you may be faced with, so exercise that right. After these preliminary questions, the officer will ask likely for your driver's license, your registration, and your insurance. It's a good idea to let the officer know where those items are located and ask permission to get them. If you have a PBA card, now's the time to hand it to the officer. Once he goes back to his car and writes that ticket, he won't be able to undo it. Then, the officer will take your documents back to the police vehicle and run your driving record along with your plates. During this time, the police officer will figure out what to charge you with, if anything, and issue the ticket. This process can often take 20 minutes or longer, which might seem like an eternity, but be patient, stay calm, remain in your vehicle, even if it takes a while before the officer returns. When the officer comes back to the car with the ticket, take the ticket and listen for any statements or instructions. You could then ask the officer if it's okay to leave. Keep in mind, police officers have no obligation to explain fines, points, or insurance costs associated with your ticket. They may even go as far as saying something that is inaccurate, false, or even misleading. We've heard many stories of officers who encourage people to plead guilty by telling them that there won't be any points when that simply is not the case. Remember, a police officer isn't your attorney or is he your friend, so don't rely on him for advice on the side of the road. Once you are off the road, take the time to research the charges you are facing, or better yet, consult with an experienced attorney who can advise you of the consequences of your ticket. Many tickets can be reduced or dismissed, so just because you got a ticket, or even if you were guilty, doesn't mean you have to plead guilty and suffer severe consequences.